I think most people associate, especially on the health side of things, that look, I think no one in this world is going to say, I don't want to be more sustainable or I don't want to be more
Right.
healthy, right? No one ever says
Right.
that. But in reality, it's
Right.
again, you are bound by your economic, limitations. And unfortunately, in some sense, the whole
Right.
sustainable food ecosystem is not scalable to the point where, majority of the population can, frankly, afford it, right? And,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and this is again dragging you a little bit to Asia point of view. I mean, Asia produces a lot of the food for the world,
Right.
right?
Right.
If you have a suggestion for all the major food producers or companies in Asia as an expert again in sustainable food development, right? How would you advise them to, I know, take all of us down the path of better nutrition, better health, better food intake? And again, as an investment, clearly, because we all want to know where is the next, well, zebra, unicorn, whatever you name it, right, in this industry.
Right.
So
Right.
again, I'm not putting you on the spot, Michael, but clearly I've written a lot about this. So we would love your idea, or if you have a say in how to use an Asian company and change the world with what it has access to in terms of food production, what kind of ideas would you be thinking of?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one of the advantages Asia has right now is a very, sort of dynamic ecosystem for entrepreneurship and also a substantial amount of capital to make investments. And so if I was a large food company, for example, I'd be doing a couple things. And you're seeing some companies around the world like Unilever and Nestle and others doing this already. So one, they're setting up their own VC arms. So the companies themselves are setting up their own venture capital organizations to start investing in early stage companies that have promising either technology or brands that carry a sustainability component to them that can allow the company to kind of get their foot in the door at an early stage with a very small check size. But if that technology and that company ends up developing into something promising, for example, like a Beyond Meat or whatever, it allows them to participate earlier and potentially fold them into their organization earlier at a much cheaper cost and be able to scale it more quickly because they'll be on, they'll be around the board room in the early days. So that's part of it. Secondarily is investing in R&D. So part of what's limited, call it the better for you movement or the sustainable food movement, is simply that, as you said, it's very expensive for a lot of people to make that, better choice. It's like a social justice issue in some respects where in order to eat well, you have to be well off. And so a big part of that is getting the cost down on a lot of these products. In order to do that, like any other aspect of our food system, because there was research and development and investment made on the part of food companies to figure out how to do that. And so what I would simply recommend, and even I think it was Unilever just made $100 million investment into an R&D facility to look at how to make organic and different plant protein components cheaper to produce, and also coming up with novel products. So I think, if you're a large food company right now, it's basically making an investment on the future of your business and figuring out how you can scale these things, because it's just not going to happen on its own. And you can't necessarily wait for consumers or the government, to get there first. You've got to start, doing it, within your own capacity. And you can even leverage those investments to then go to, consumers or go to governments and say, hey, look, we're making these commitments, come along with us in whatever, capacity that might look like, whether it's in the form of incentives on the tax side, if you're a government, to try to incentivize more of this behavior, or maybe getting consumers to come in and start, testing some of these products early and give them feedback. So those are some ideas just off the top of my head that I would be doing if I was a large food company, whether in Asia or really anywhere in the world. And you're seeing some examples of that already.
Right. I mean, no, that's, I mean, again, very interesting and very thought provoking. For someone like me who's based in Asia, again, everyone's so focused on cost because all the stakeholders care about your returns. And frankly, if everybody
Right.
thinks like that, the scenario that you just painted will never happen because everyone's still, again, cutting corners just to drive, cost down 1/10 of a penny because, with
Right.
10 million production a day, that's quite a bit of money, right? So I think this is why,
Exactly.
we are very honored to have you as, as a speaker in the Start Me Up Summit. And in some sense, because we do need international experts such as yourself to motivate the investors, the entrepreneurs, the startup community in Asia to not be restricted by what is the ecosystem right now. We have to look forward to what the world can be if we all
Right.
decide to open up and become sustainable. Because again, one hand pushing a rock up a hill, not going to happen, right? It takes a whole village to do that.
Right.
So, well, again, it's so wonderful to have you, Michael. But any last thoughts, in terms of what you can share with the Asian audience about, your journey or something that you think they can take away from this very short 20-25 minute call and say, you know what, I'm grateful to have met Michael and I'm glad to have learned this from Michael. If that would be, the question, what would you like to share?
Yeah. I mean, I think what uh, even today, what a lot of people don't appreciate is just how exciting and how meaningful the changes that are taking place in our food system are that are taking place right now. So I would equate it to what was happening with the internet in the early 90s to what's happening in food right now. And you don't even have to take my word for it. The former head of Google, I think it was Eric Schmidt, said that the number one most promising technology in the world today is in alternative proteins. Basically, figuring out through technology, so ag tech, agricultural technology, how to make foods that effectively mimic the foods we eat today, but do so in a way that is safer, more scalable, that can be cheaper, even customizable around diet and wellness, and require immense levels below what is currently required on water, carbon, land, and other foodborne illnesses, which even ties back into things like COVID because a good part of these communicable diseases transfer from animals. And so if we can try to find these next unicorns, as you say, whether they're the Beyond Meats or the Impossible Foods, or Just, which is another company, or I can highlight one in Hong Kong, like a Green Monday. These are the companies that are experiencing unbelievable growth. They're getting investment from the Richard Bransons and the Li Kai-shings and the Bill Gateses of the world, and are being looked at as sort of how we transition from the horse to the car when it comes to
Right.
transportation. We're transitioning from, call it the cow, to the,
Right.
whatever equivalent you want, or maybe in Asia, it's better to say the pig. And so it's
Right.
not to say that we're going to stop, using pigs entirely, because animals will likely always be part of our food system. But if we can come up with ways to create products that taste, smell, and provide the nutrition that pork products provide, but sort of jumping the need to use the animal, and in the process do it safer, cleaner, more affordable, and more sustainably, it's kind of like, why wouldn't we do that, right? So it's kind of like with horses, we don't use them anymore, so there's a lot less poop in the street, and we get places faster, and it's a lot easier to get places, and but initially cars were looked at as dangerous. It's kind of like, what is this new thing that could potentially endanger my life because it goes so much faster and I've never really seen it before. So I kind of see, I think the biggest takeaway from our call today, hopefully, is to encourage people to really take a strong look at what's happening in the sustainable food space, not just for sustainability, because as you talked about earlier, we all want to be healthier, we all want to be as sustainable as possible. But what's so exciting and what gets me up in the morning is the fact that the capitalistic argument for these investments is as strong as any other segment of the market right now because the consumer is eating more of it, so it's growing faster. Our environment is going to require these products to be in existence if we don't want to see, increasing levels of carbon enter our atmosphere. And if we want to also make more robust supply chains, right? So think about national security. As you said, a lot of the food is produced in China right now, and there's a lot of tensions between China and the US, for example. And so it's becoming increasingly powerful for governments to think about how can we produce more and more of our food in our own country so we're less and less reliant on other countries in case our relationships with them maybe change in the future. And so leveraging these technologies and these ideas, to me, is one of the smartest investments you can make, even if you don't care about anything else. If you just want that bottom line, as you say, to get one more penny out of the rate of return, to me, focusing on sustainability and resiliency, particularly within food, is how you're going to get it.
So now, everyone, you've heard from the founder's mouth. This is potentially a Hong Kong founded company that is in clinical trial, that is ready for scalability all around the world, in China and in Europe. Very important facts, because again, the whole point of these festivals, while I must say it's an important aspect of showcasing startups, the more important part, as you can imagine, and hope you agree with me, right? It's the follow-up, right?
Yeah.
After the festival, matchmaking, discussing business plans, and what I find most attractive in some sense about your company, Langston, is when you look around the world, there aren't that many Hong Kong founded startups that have really made a splash globally, especially in the healthcare sector. So, with the community support, we hope to enable and empower you to, represent Hong Kong and just, make us proud, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, just one word. I'm glad to be born in Hong Kong, educated in Hong Kong, and also the whole technology is developed in Hong Kong. So myself and my team has a very bold vision, is hopefully at least to make Hong Kong, but more importantly, make other countries and other places a better place to live. So we are very proud to be part of the journey. And I hope with concerted effort, we can really benefit mankind, especially in the eye care space.
Absolutely. Any last words of advice from you to future, other startup potential founders that look up to you right now? Because sometimes, inspiration has to come from a comfortable place. And the fact that you are, as you said, born in Hong Kong, educated in Hong Kong, a Hong Kong founder, capturing the world's attention. What advice would you give to other young founders based in Hong Kong with similar history such as yours, to enable them to become like you one day as a role model?
So I guess speaking from my own experience, don't limit yourself from where you can reach or where you can envision. Grab every opportunities and resources that you have, and then look beyond the horizon and explore different opportunities outside. That helps you to achieve the dream, because I feel this is something very important. When I talk to, say, my secondary school students, where for my alma mater, I feel sometimes they are too afraid to just go out of their comfort zone and then to strive for their dreams to achieve some higher goals. So I feel don't limit yourselves, imagination as well. Go there, achieve the goals or dreams that you have and make that happen. I feel that's very important. If you limit not yourself just at the imagination part, then you can't go far. So I hope that this is something that will be helpful for fellow listeners to bear in mind.
Fantastic. I mean, we cannot thank you enough today, Dr. Suen, for joining us, as a representative of the young entrepreneur leaders that, we have, curated as a theme, because, Start Me Up Hong Kong 2020, Decade of Action, Sustainable Development Goals, Empowerment of Equality, Advancement of Healthcare. I mean, all these buzzwords, yes, but wouldn't it be nice that at the end of this festival, And 1 year later, when we come back to the next edition, that you would already be in Europe and China and maybe even more jurisdictions in the world. So honestly, we really look forward to that. On that note, thank you so much once again for your precious time. For those of you who wishes to learn more about Opharmic, I am sure you will find Langston's profile on the main website at Startup Impact Summit. If not, very easy to trace with internet. You're all very smart people. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day, Dr. Langston. 2020, getting more precise into what we call the decade of action, where we finally realized giving the adults the SDGs is not really changing much. And let's be honest, right? Why don't we then give the SDGs into the youth and see, hopefully, they can do a better job guiding us how to make this world a better place. And, if you had, the decision-making power, Alvaro, in SharpBrains, with the entire community behind you, right? What would you tell, right now, universities, right? How can they maximize the educational opportunity in terms of information absorbing, in terms of memory, in terms of execution, in terms of, again, really exercising your frontal lobes? I mean, is that something that can be taught, do you think, easily? Is that something where, that SharpBrains can lead the initiative with, other like-minded partners? And, because trust me, in Asia, we would love to have your input into our current universities, because we always need more innovation in that sense as well.
So, first of all, we work with universities, but I don't think the main focus for our work is universities, because themselves universities can be very resistant to change.
Yes.
I think here the role is the individual, is the learner, is the student, is the professor, and more people realize the same way we exercise our bodies. So there's a whole industry for physical fitness, and there's a culture that we have to. So more and more, this is going to come from people realizing there is a need, a culture for mental fitness. And then what are the ways that we can improve our attention, our memory? So we work a lot, with technology companies. And one of the things we do, I have a couple of things. So we publish big reports that summarize the science and the technology, so people know what to adopt. But the most important thing, back to your answer, is we publish books like this one, the SharpBrains Guide to Brain Fitness, and it's in multiple languages. But I think the main idea here is people. We cannot just wait for universities or wait for politicians or wait for whoever. This is the most important thing for each of us, is to be more aware of how our brain and mind work and how to maximize its functioning, and then how to help those around us, so also they learn about the mind and the work and how to improve functioning. And the more people do that, the more that universities and the schools and employers will realize, wow, these people are better fit, they're more resilient, they're more productive. How can we get more of it? How can we support them? How can we hire them? So I think right now, what is more exciting, and we see that a lot in areas, like we see a lot of things in the US, in Canada, in parts of Europe, frankly, in Singapore as well, in Hong Kong, in Japan, we see more and more interest in this idea of what you are, preventive health, but even beyond preventive health, is more lifelong cognitive development, lifelong enhancement in different ways. And what is new is that the toolkit to do that is exploding. So as you said, maybe the Asian culture already is very open to the idea of constant learning, constant maximizing performance, but the toolkit to help that be reality is being developed right now in very interesting ways. So for example, there's more and more companies that analyze smartphone use. So the way you use your smartphone, and that way they can detect early if you have depression, or you have even too high levels of stress, and then they can suggest different interventions like breathing or like visualizing something, or even it's called transcranial magnetic stimulation to help you calm and to be in a better mental state to perform the task. So there's an explosion of tools, of technologies that are not drugs, they're not invasive, so they are not medical, they are more educational, and they can be used either by people directly saying, wait, you have to relax for 30 seconds until you have the right mental state to make that trading decision. So it is fascinating. This does not substitute meditation or breathing, but it helps you apply in a real context. Is that very powerful?
Right. Understand. Well, I mean, it's so much to take in, Alvaro, in some sense, because, like, at least, this is, I hope, the beginning of the Asian culture learning about SharpBrains and what you do amazingly, with a lot of academic institutions and nonprofit organizations around the world, because to create a really efficient labor force and to maximize our value add to the community, which itself is sustainable, we gotta pay more attention to, what you said, lifelong cognitive development. I'm remembering things. That's good. My brain's still working.
But let me make a point, which is very interesting. The priority right now is not efficiency, and you use that word. Yeah. Efficiency is what is very important once you know what you have to do and how, and then you do it more efficient. Right now, the key challenge is effectiveness. Is many of the things we are doing, we're trying to do them very efficient, but it is the wrong thing
to do. Right.
So we have to focus more on, we have to reinvent a bit the wheel of education and lifelong learning to make sure that we truly are effective at preparing children for the future, for the society we have in. And once we are in the right direction, then we can optimize and be as efficient as possible. But right now it's about making sure we are developing the right things. We will make many mistakes. That is okay, because we are trying to improve things, and learning from mistakes is extremely important. There will be some waste, there will be some controversies, but at least we have to try to go into that direction of thriving and mental resilience and mental fitness versus the old transfer of knowledge mindset.
Yeah, when travel resumes, we definitely have to find a way where you can give master classes to some of our top education leaders, because, you're right. It starts with the individual, and the individuals can cause a ripple effect across other individuals. And it's not about top down or bottoms up. It's about peer-to-peer acknowledgement of what you just said, the difference between being effective and efficient, because effective, then efficiency. So one last question for you, Alvaro. Based on your understanding of Asia, if this summit was to have happened, in person, and you were actually able to be on stage with me in Hong Kong, which would normally have been the case, right?
I would love have.
Yeah. What would be the one takeaway that you wish, everyone, listening and joining the Start Me Festival to walk away remembering Alvaro and SharpBrains? Like, what would that thing be?
Wow. I think the main thing would be that the key in anything is practice. So sometimes from a conference, we get many different intellectual ideas, many points, and then we forget them and they don't help us improve our lives because it's just very abstract points. So my takeaway would be from this conversation, just 20, 25 minutes, what is the one thing that everyone in the audience has resonated, has sounded important, and just practice that. And maybe practice for a few days. So it can be more how to learn how to breathe, how to relax, how to try working memory with little exercise like the one, or just from the conference in general, not just my talk. So from the conference in general, was the one thing that truly was an aha moment. Just don't let that stay at the abstract level. Try to practice it. So every morning for a week or 2 weeks, or every night before going to sleep, try to practice something, and you will see how that strengthens your brain. There is a saying that cells that fire together wire together. So you need that practice, constant practice. So we become, over time, we become our thoughts, our feelings, our actions. So it's very important to be present and mindful to try to harness that neuroplasticity in the right way versus being passive and watching television and being angry or afraid all the time, in which our brains are going to decline. So that would be my one takeaway. Whatever it is for you, practice.
That is brilliant. I am definitely going to practice what you just told me to practice. And I hope other people do as well. So, again, thank you so much, Alvaro, again, for joining us all the way from Florida. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is Mr. Alvaro from SharpBrains. He has a few books published, as you can tell. I would definitely direct the audience during our live summit to your website and all that. But anyways, your speaker bio is all up online. So once again, thank you so much, sir, for sharing.
Do we have one more minute, Kenneth?
Of course.
Oh, because I remember now, again, working memory, something you mentioned earlier that I wanted to build on.
Yeah.
I think young people obviously bring a lot of new energies to problems. So yes, I agree that we should think every person is a change maker and empower younger people, but we should not disregard older people.
Yeah, okay.
So but also in older people, there's something we develop called pattern recognition. So the more experience we have, if we have used that experience well, we have very useful pattern recognition. So it's not that by age people become wiser. It's just because people have tried and learned through many, many mistakes that they became wiser. They develop the pattern recognition of what to do, what not to do. So I would suggest young people to maybe partner with older adults, but older adults who have been good role models at trying new things, at failing, at learning from failures. And that combination can be very powerful.
Absolutely. That's why we have big brother, small brother, or mentors. Again, you're right. Yeah. Absolutely. It's just taking a typical older and younger and merging them in a new format. I think that's very powerful. And hey, in Asia, we always respect the elderly. That's something we we're just innate with it.
But maybe that respect, based to true respect, has to be both ways.
Yes.
And it's about trying things together and learning together. That should be the real show of respect versus just passively agreeing with things that maybe you don't believe in. So maybe real respect should be both ways and try things together. That's going to be maybe the future and how we can solve real problems.
Hey, wow, definitely. We need more time, but again, thank you so much. We very much look forward to welcoming you, when we're allowed to, and hope you share some of your experiences with a much wider community across Asia. So
I would love to.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a wonderful day. Take care and speak soon.
Bye, everyone. See you.
Bye.
Bye.